Welcome back to the tomb, everyone. This is the Pharaoh, aka Ali. And for today's episode, it's called No Pain, No Gain. And I have a very important guest with me today, and I'll have him go ahead and introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Colin Angstrom, and I am a collegiate strength and conditioning coach. I've been doing this for the past 5-6 years. Everything I say and on this podcast are my own thoughts and opinions, and in no way directly related to my employer, who I work for. And I know Ali through my buddy Tofi back in Connecticut. I worked with Tofi back at Yale University. And I ended up meeting Ali and a bunch of the other guys who all went to UMass back in the day through Tofi. So that's kind of how I know Ali, and we got to know each other through playing video games online, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it pretty much took, I think it took maybe about 4 months before I actually saw what the fuck you look like. For the longest time, I thought you were, I don't know why, but I just thought you were black. And then
and the funny thing, I remember telling you this, is I did not know you were black. So, because I mean, that's not something that comes up with like any of our friends. Like, oh yeah, like, and when you meet people, you're like, oh, like he's black. Like,
yeah,
no, you don't do. Like, I just thought you'd. I mean, I had no idea, but then like just casually one day it came up. I remember we were playing Fortnite or something, and someone said something. I was like, "Ali, you're black," and you're like, "Yeah, dude."
it's like, yeah, it's like, wait, Colin, aren't you? And it's just like, no, it's just like, all right, mind blown. It's like, all right. It's like, so
that was crazy. I remember that too.
Apparently, you have a black voice during video games. So
yep. Well, our boy FO says a different story though. I kind of knew that he was black when I first started talking to him.
Yeah, he has an accent.
He does.
Okay, let's get into it. So I kind of wanted to ask you, because how did you get into sports science, and like what exactly is sports science?
Yeah. So I mean, I've always been involved in athletics and kind of health and fitness, like growing up. Like I was always in sports. Like I played football, baseball, did track growing up. And I always did some kind of weightlifting because my dad was always big on it. So that's kind of what got me into it. I never really enjoyed it until I actually went to college. And it wasn't until I met my random roommate, who's actually still one of my best friends to this day, my buddy Justin, who actually lives up in Connecticut. He was a big power lifter, and he really got me into lifting. Would have been my sophomore year at East Carolina University, and that's kind of like what really started and fueled my passion for lifting, strength and conditioning. And so I knew, like, after I got involved with that, like I was already going to college. Like I knew I wanted to do something related to athletics. So originally I went for athletic training, tried that. I was like, nah, this isn't for me. And then I got kind of fixated on physical therapy, and I was like, okay, like this is a good route, great field, great pay. Like, not gonna have to worry about getting fired because my boss gets fired because somebody new comes in. Like that's how football works. Like new coach comes in, he brings his own guy. Like the rest of the staff gets fired. Doesn't work like that. So physical therapy is kind of what I was shooting after. But originally, to graduate in undergrad back in spring 2014, I had to do a 12 credit hour internship to graduate. And all through undergrad, I was shadowing, getting hours observing and shadowing a physical therapist. So I had plenty of hours, like probably over 500 hours of that experience. So I knew for my internship, I wanted to get exposed to something different. And it was just kind of random. Like I remember just kind of thinking about like, oh, like training athletes would be cool. Like I wonder how you get into that, because it's always kind of something that was in the back of my mind, but I didn't really know how you got into it. But I remember it would have been end of 2013, the winter. Like I was getting ready to finalize, like with my advisor and everything, like where I'm going to do my internship. And I remember talking to my parents about like, hey, like I think I want to try this college strength conditioning thing, like go intern somewhere. And just randomly, like I remember my dad talking to people about it, like, and he ended up meeting Nick Saban's aunt and uncle, who actually lived close to them back in where I'm from in Ohio. They met him randomly at a restaurant one night, because they met him through another set of friends they knew. And they all started talking, and the guy's name's Sid. He's like another father figure to me, but he's the one who kind of started picking my dad's brain, like, oh, like, so Colin's interested in strength conditioning. Well, hey, like, my nephew is Nick Saban. Like, I can get him in at Alabama if he wants to go work down there. I get some internship. So
Oh shit.
that's yeah, it was crazy. Like it happened really quick too. So I remember just some random day, and I think it was December of 2013. I got a call from Scott Cochran at Alabama. He was the head football strength and conditioning coach at the time. He's actually the special teams coordinator at Georgia now. Deep, thick, raspy Louisiana accent. Like he's a Louisiana boy, born and raised. Just remember him calling me and just saying like, "Hey, Colin, do you want to come down here and intern? Like you can come down whenever. Like just let me know and we'll get you rolling." So the rest is history. That's kind of how I got my start. Went down there, an intern, and that's kind of what got the ball rolling for me in strength conditioning slash sports science.
Oh shit. I didn't know that you
Yeah.
interned down at Alabama.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty wild. It was a great experience. Met a lot of great people down there, and formed a great network of people who like I constantly pick their brain and talk to on a regular basis.
Mm, okay. So with sports science, it's like, could you explain that what that kind of entails?
Yeah. So just to clarify, like what I do for a living is strength conditioning. Like I'm not a sports scientist. Like in a way I am, because I look at myself that way because I'm science research and data driven for everything I do in the weight room with my teams, and how I measure progress. But I'm not like titled as like a sports scientist. I'm just director of strength conditioning. Um,
Mm,
but being a sports scientist is really where our field of not just collegiate strength conditioning but conditioning in general is moving, because everything is data driven, everything is science based, everything is research based. Like the days of just like like the title of this podcast, no pain, no gain, like they still exist to a degree, but not near as much as used to, because we can measure everything. We can map out progress, show what we're doing, showing how our athletes got better. So like the days of just kind of winging it and hoping and just pushing all the time 24/7, like those days are gone, because being a true sports scientist, you use that data, use that research to drive your program and get the desired results that you want with the whole team and your athletes individually in the weight room.
mm, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
There's
now
actually a
that
cool new certification that actually just came out through the National Strength and Conditioning Association called I think it's like a certified sports scientist, which is actually pretty cool. Like that's one I'm actually going to look into.
mm, so now you can officially say those like, nigga, we made it. I'm a
Yeah,
sports scientist now.
yeah. But that's
Uh,
that's a that's you have to have a balance in the field. Like there's a science of coaching and there's the art of coaching. You
mm,
have to find a happy medium in between. Because like I've worked with coaches who are all science based. Like they're great, they're super smart, like some of the smartest people you ever meet. But then they don't understand how to get their athletes to buy in or build relationships with them, because they're not on that art side of coaching, which is getting buy-in, building relationships with your athletes, and truly being a coach and a practitioner on the floor. So you have to have that balance in between, where you're a good science-based or kind of scientist, strength coach, but also you have to have that art of coaching, and you got to be in the middle. You can't be on either one side. You got to have that happy balance in between.
yeah, you gotta be able to actually inspire them
Yeah,
to want to go to the gym, do these lifts, even if like they're tired or something like that. And it's like motivating them and like actually lighting that fire that drives their motivation.
exactly. Yeah, and the kids today too want to know why they're doing stuff. Not all of them, but typically like most kids I've worked with, they especially if they're really bought in and good kids, and they want to be in the weight room, which is like it's hit or miss. You have some kids like that, some kids not, but like the kids who are good and really bought in, really committed to the program, like they're gonna constantly challenge you, not by like questioning what you're doing, but they want to know why we're doing it. Like they're not just gonna be like, oh cool, like we're doing uh wave sets at 3 2 1 1 for back squat today. Like they're like, hey Colin, like why are we doing wave sets today? Like what's your thinking behind this? Like, and that's one thing I love about like what I do, is having kids constantly ask me like hey, like well, like I know the kids who are going to be asking me why because they think it's stupid and they're not buying the program. But there's a lot of kids who like I know when they're asking me why, like they're genuinely interested. And like I have a couple kids here at the university I work with that are actually interested in doing strength conditioning for a career, like once they finish their degree, and like they're
Mm.
constantly asking me questions, and like they're keeping me on my toes because like they want to know why. Like that's the huge part of what we do is like, if you don't have a why of why you're doing something or why, like a couple of great bosses I've worked with, like um, Coach Tom Newman back at Yale, and Coach Fee, Chris Fee at Sacred Heart. Um, all of them at both of them at one time mentioned, like, if you don't have a why of why something's in your program, then it probably shouldn't be in there. Like, if you don't know why you have a back squat in your program, then why is it in there? If you don't
Yeah.
know what you're trying to achieve, like what are you doing? Like Coach Newman always used to tell me is like the questions you ask yourself when you're trying to achieve like these goals and progress in the weight room is like, who are you working with? What time of year is it? How much time do you have, and what are you trying to accomplish? Like
Mm.
if you all constantly have that why in your mind of why you're doing what you're doing, then it's gonna drive your program to the best level.
Yeah, and it's something interesting that you said is that when they ask why, you can discern the reason like behind it. It's like sometimes
Yeah,
they're asking why as a um, a rebellion against authority, and then other
yeah,
times they're asking why as a acquisition for knowledge.
yeah,
And that's very interesting. It's like you're to the point where it's like just a simple word why, you're like, because of the fact that you know these kids and you kind of can feel out their personality. It's like, all right, he's just trying to be an asshole,
yeah,
versus
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
he's trying to actually learn so that he knows like he can actually buy into this.
Exactly. And every place you coach at, every place I've been, like you have those kids who always try to work the system, try to question everything we're doing. They're just, like you said, rebellious. And there's only usually a handful of them. There's usually not like a whole team full of them. But every place like I've been, like you'll have those few kids who are just trying to question everything you
Yeah,
do. But you also
let's
have
have a
the
couple of knuckleheads.
yeah, yeah, but you get used to it. But you have a majority of the teams that are bought in, like they enjoy it, and like I tell all my teams and my recruits I talk to too is like, hey, look, like I know you're not coming to X university because you want to become a professional weightlifter, like you want to go to the Olympics, compete against China, and take US to the next level in Olympic weightlifting. Like, understand that, but you also need to have a good attitude when you come here about lifting weights because you're going to do it. Like it's part of the program. Like I know you're coming to this university to play football, to play volleyball, baseball, whatever it may be, but we're going to lift weights. It's part of the program. It's what we do here. It's what every university does. So you might as well get a good attitude about coming in the weight room and truly seeing it as an opportunity to make yourself better.
Mm. And you said that, so you've done strength and conditioning for football, volleyball, and like other sports as
Oh
well.
yeah, all kinds. So the university I'm at now, I'm in charge of football, and then I have men's basketball and women's volleyball, and then I have three GAs and one intern who are all my assistants. I'm the director, and I oversee all their teams. Like they do their thing. I don't micromanage. Like I trust them to do their job. There's been a couple cases where coaches have talked to me or come to me because they weren't happy about something or how something was handled. That's typically when I'll step in. Like I don't try to micromanage. Like no, like that's stupid. Like you need to do it this way. Like I let them try stuff. I let them fail, and I usually only step in if I see them really struggling or if a coach comes to me with a problem. Yeah, those are the teams I have here. But where I was before here, I helped with football. I had women's soccer. I had track, cross country. Before that, where I was, I had men's basketball, women's volleyball, baseball, helped with football. And then before that, I was at Yale University, which I helped with football, men's lacrosse, women's lacrosse, and then Alabama. Like pretty much any team you name, I was helping with in the weight room. Like football was the main priority, like what I went there for, but I helped women's rowing, women's basketball, tennis, all. I was in charge of men's cheer, like any team you name. Like I was trying to get exposure to them because I knew like going into this, it's really hard to silo right out of the beginning. Like,
Mhm.
I'm a football guy. Like I've always loved football just because it's my favorite sport. Um, it's my favorite sport to watch, be part of, and it was my favorite sport playing growing up. So I've always gravitated towards that, and I love the energy. I love the culture. Um, but it doesn't matter if like eventually like I want to silo into just doing football. But like I
Mhm.
know right now, like as I'm working my way up, like I'm gonna have other teams, and like those teams are all still important to me. So I know that's why back in the day at Alabama and any place I've been, I want to get exposed to as many teams I could because I knew like as I work my way up, I'm gonna have to have multiple teams to get experience with different coaches and different athletic teams.
Trying to diversify your portfolio. I
Yeah,
got you.
exactly. Yeah.
Uh, so with that is, have you know like, so what is the what are some of the differences between the strength and conditioning that you would do for, let's say, football versus the strength and conditioning that you would do for basketball or volleyball?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the time of year too, because I have very similar goals for all my teams depending on the time of year. Like I'm a big believer, like we're in season right now with football. We actually play our final game this Saturday. If we win, there's a good chance that we make it to the playoffs for Division 2 for the first time in school history.
Woo!
Yeah, which is awesome. But I'm a big believer in like we push in season. Like you hear a lot of coaches say, like, okay, once we get in season, like our job as strength coach is over. Like it's just maintenance, maintain, like keep the guys healthy. Yes, like I absolutely agree. Like we got to keep them healthy, but we're not gonna maintain. We're gonna fucking push. We're gonna get stronger. Like it's not gonna be where we just come in the weight room and we just go through the motion. Like we're gonna push. We're gonna build our strength, build our power, and our speed all throughout the season because the team that stays the strongest and longest is going to be the most successful, and it's going to be the last team standing that probably won the championship. So for me in season, like my teams are going to push. Like the volume is going to keep dropping week to week, meaning like instead of doing like 1 week of like sets of 5, like we're gonna go to sets of 3s and then sets of 2s, and we'll go wave sets like 3-2-1, and we may go to sets of 2s. Like we're gonna keep dropping the volume, but the percent's gonna keep going up. Like right now with my football guys, like this is week 11 coming up, we're hitting 90% for one in our final set of back squat bench. We're on power clean, push press, like our main barbell movement. So like we're pushing. The guys know like when they come in the weight room, like we're gonna grind, we're gonna get better.
Mhm.
Um, and then, like I said, it's really dependent on the year because I train all my teams very similar. Like I don't believe in sports specificity in the weight room, to be honest. Like I don't think you need to train like I have women's volleyball and men's basketball as well, in addition to football. Like I don't think you need to train a women's volleyball player in a specific way in the weight room compared to like a football player. I think as long as you stick to the basics and have those athletes putting bar on their back and they're back squatting. They're doing a heavy press overhead, a heavy bench, a heavy row, some kind of chin up, some kind of Olympic movement like a power clean, a hang clean, an Olympic press or like a split jerk or push press.
Mhm.
They're going to get better because those have been the lifts that have been proven through the test of time since back in the 1930s or 40s or whenever it was that the Russians and the Soviets really popularized and figured out this Olympic weightlifting thing.
Mhm.
That's why those lifts have been proven through the test of time to give you the most bang for buck in terms of athletic performance. So really all my teams, like we're going to stick to those barbell movements. Those will always be the main part of our lift. And then towards the end of our workouts, when we do like what I call my accessory
Yeah.
movements, where we do more single arm, single leg stuff. We do some single leg, double leg plyo stuff. We do some ab stuff, some static core rotational stuff. Um, Now there is a difference in terms of like male female. Like I'm not going to try to add on 10 pounds of muscle on a women's volleyball player in the off season compared to like what I would with a men's football player because
You're not gonna have the girls benching 315?
no, I mean they'll get strong, but they're not gonna get to that degree. But with a contact, not even a contact, I'd call football a collision sport.
Mhm.
A sport like that, muscle is king. The more muscle you can add, that's more ability that you can send new neural pathways to that muscle to make it be able to produce more force, and then send those neural signals from your brain at a higher rate of speed, which is power. But that all has to start because you have to build more muscle, and because football is a collision sport, more muscle is more body armor, so it's going to help protect those guys from injury in the sport. So that's why in the off season, like when we hit January here with football, like we'll come back, we'll do a basic strength program because I'm going to assume that most of these guys went home and didn't do jack shit all winter, which is fine. Like they deserve some time off. Like I know
Yeah.
my guys who are committed are going to be doing stuff, but I know there's going to be a lot of guys who don't do anything. So typically when I come back, we'll do like a basic strength block, like a 3x5, 4x5, just kind of get their body acclimated, their nervous system firing again with those heavier weights. Then that's after we go through like a month of that 4-week block, then we'll shift into more of like our muscle building phases throughout the semester. But yeah, like I said, with my teams, it's really dependent on the time of year, and that's gonna be dependent on what we're doing. Like right now, football and men's basketball are in season. Um, I'm doing a lot of the similar stuff with them since they're both in season. Football is a little bit different because we're later in the season.
Mhm.
Their volume is much lower. The percents are higher versus men's basketball just started last weekend. They're actually in Kansas City this weekend. Um, they're at moderate volume right now. Their percent's moderate heavy. Nothing crazy yet, but as we keep rolling, like it's going to keep dropping in terms of volume, but the weight's going to keep going up. But if you
Gotcha.
looked at my programs, starting my teams, like they're pretty similar, and you'll see that I kind of stick with very similar movements because I know, like through my couple years of doing this, like I know what works, I know what doesn't work.
Mm. And with what you've been saying so far is that you've used the terms like power and strength. Could you talk about what is the difference between the two, and well, if there is a difference?
Yeah. Yep. So strength is your ability to be able to produce a large amount of force. So how much force can you put into a ground, or like say like with a bench press, like how much force can you put into that bar to get that bar to move and to successfully complete the lift?
Mm.
That's force. Power is how quickly can you produce that force. So kind of another name for that is if you heard people say RFD, or rate of force development. That's how fast, like how much
Hey, and can you say that again?
rate of force development. It's kind
Rate
of
of,
another
okay.
power. They kind of go hand in hand. Um, Power is all about how fast can you produce a very large amount of force, and like power is king, and it doesn't matter what sport it is, if it's tennis, if it's football, if it's men's basketball, if it's women's lacrosse. Power is king, speed is king. Like generally the most powerful athlete, the faster athlete, the stronger athlete is going to be the most successful. But if you look at two different athletes, like one guy may be stronger, one guy may have a higher power output. Typically the guy with the more power output is going to be more successful, especially in a power based sport like football. So yeah, strength is all about how much force can you put in the ground, and then power is about how much force can you produce at a very large, high rate of speed too.
Mm.
So it's
So,
like you look at a slow moving, heavy powerlifting back squat, like that's all huge amount of force, not very much power because that bar is moving probably less than 0.5 meters per second
mm,
versus an Olympic, um, maybe 60, 80% of your 1RM, an Olympic power clean, like that bar is moving probably anywhere from 0.8 meters per second to probably 0.9, 0.95. And that's a huge amount of force, but it's also being moved at a very high rate of speed.
mm,
That's what transfers to sport the most, is that your body's ability to be able to produce a large amount of force in a short amount of time. And the reason the Olympic lifts are so beneficial too is because how quickly you have to change direction of your body. So like a power clean, you come up and you catch it in that front rack position. If you look at elite Olympic weightlifters, it's not even that that bar is moving that fast. It's how quick they can slam there and drop their body underneath that bar, and that's where that huge benefit comes from those Olympic lifts, and why they're so important for power development in general.
mm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, because that's very interesting because especially with football, because I think we talked about it, but with the NFL Combine, so with the bench press that they have, so is that their way of kind of measuring a athlete's power or strength, or is it kind of both?
I'm very anti bench press test at the combine. I think it's stupid. It's supposed to be a strength test, but because those guys are banging out 15 plus reps, like it's a muscular endurance test. Like that doesn't translate to the game of football. Like if you want to see where a guy's true strength is at, it's got to be a max effort test.
Mm,
That's why like you hear a lot of people and myself are not really for um, the 225 bench test because it's not a test of strength. Like the stronger guys, yes, they're going to be able to do 25 plus reps. They're going to bang out a crap ton of reps, but it's not really giving you a gauge of, okay, how strong this guy got 30 reps. That doesn't really tell me much. Like, can you estimate a max based on that? Yes, but like there's different ways to test. Like, okay, where's this guy's upper body strength at? Like, what's a better test for that? Because muscular endurance, to be honest, is not that beneficial to. You have to have a base of it, but it's not that beneficial to football because football is a power sport,
mm,
and it's short, quick bursts. Like the average football play is 3 to 5 seconds, and it's like 3 to 5 yards. Like that doesn't like that 225 test does not translate to what you're doing on the football field. It's all short, quick power movements. Like how fast can you produce a force?
mm. Okay. So if you know, have they done like research to show that the estimated max using the 225 bench is not similar to the person's actual max when they do one rep?
That I'm not sure about, but it would be different because you're lifting sub maximally. Like they're not putting like 80% in the bar and trying to get that for like five plus reps. Like they're banging out a sub maximum weight that could be anywhere for, depending on the guy, like anywhere from 60 to, not even 60, maybe like probably about 60 to 80% of their max. Like you don't know where that percent's at for that guy. Like I'm sure there's probably some research on it.
Mm,
Like I said, you can estimate a max based on that, but it's really like how accurate is that max, and like how often in a game of football are you going to bang out, like if you're an offensive lineman, how many times you're going to have to hit that defensive lineman coming off the edge 35 times? Like no, you hit him once, maybe twice, you get the block, and then the play's over.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why like maximum testing, maximum power is so beneficial and so much more of a translation to football, or any other power sport, because it's one short max effort burst, and then the play's over, you rest a little bit, then you do it again, rest, do it again.
Mm. So are there any other tests that they have at the combine that don't necessarily translate into um, strength? Sorry, not strength, power. Translate into power and actually being able to perform your task on the field.
What exactly do you mean? Like, can you
So I know that they have, obviously they have the 40-yard dash.
Yep.
That just proves how fast you are. And then they have the agility test with the cones where you,
Yeah, the 5-10-5, yep. And then they do
yeah.
the L drill too.
So with that the agility one, is that a good instrument to measure like someone's agility and their power? Because
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, for football, absolutely, because football is a game of starting and stopping, changing direction, decelerating or accelerating, decelerating, re-accelerating. So like the 5-10-5 is awesome too, because that has all those factors. And really the best three factors of overall athletic performance. And this is something that I got from my boss back at Yale, Coach Newman. Three tests that we always were constantly monitoring and checking our guys was the pro agility, which is the 5-10-5, the 10-yard dash, and the vertical jump, because all three of those are the best three factors of overall athleticism. Vertical jump, overall lower body power, like how much force can you produce in a short amount of time and get up and jump as high as you can, produce a large amount of power. Um, Pro agility, like your ability, the 5-10-5, your ability to be able to stop, change direction, decelerate, recelerate, all that good stuff, which is essential, especially the sport of football and really any sport in general, like tennis. Like that's all tennis is.
Yeah.
And then the 10-yard dash, how much force can you put into the ground? And it's similar. The 10-yard dash is more of a strength-based movement, just because it's all about force. And typically the guys who have like stronger strength indexes will be able to have a better 10-yard dash, because that first step or two in the 10-yard dash is all strength based. And then once you start getting moving, you start getting closer to like 20 yards where you reach max velocity. That's where it becomes a little bit more like true speed. But those three factors is huge. And that's why, like for the combine, the pro agility is awesome. Like big fan of that, because it's overall athleticism, and it translates to the game. And then the L drill, same thing. And also the broad jump too. Like they do I don't know if they do the vertical jump anymore. I know they used to, but they do the broad jump, which is good. Like the broad jump and the vertical jump are very highly correlated. Like typically, if you have a 10-foot broad jump, 10-foot plus broad jump, which is really good, you're probably jumping 30 plus on the vertical jump too. So both of those are very highly correlated to each other. So typically, if you have a good broad jump, you probably have a good vertical jump too.
Mm, okay.
And
Yeah,
40-yard dash, I'm not a huge fan of that, because very,
that's the most exciting part.
yeah, I mean, it's cool to see how fast guys are,
Yeah.
um, but it's very rare in a football game that you sprint 40 yards. Like I said, the average football player is 3 to 5 yards. Like you do have to train at maximum velocity, which typically occurs between 15 and 20 yards.
Hmm.
But there's very rare times in football that you're sprinting 10, 15 yards, or 40 yards. I mean, so I think in the combine, it'd be better if they did like a 10-yard dash, or like a flying 10, or a 15, or flying 20. Like I think those would be better indicator of like a guy's true speed and his ability his ability to be able to accelerate and how long it takes him to reach that max velocity too, that max speed.
Mm. See, I wish I knew all this shit when I was still in high school running track,
Yeah.
because especially when you said about the 10 to 20 yard versus a 40 yard, because I ran the 55 indoor and I ran the 100 outdoor, and my times were pretty good for, I went to states and everything like that for the 55, but it just seemed like when I made that transition to, and I've also noticed it on the professional level, is that those people that do the 60-meter indoor, it's like it doesn't translate to the 100-meter, just because from what you're saying, it sounds like that 60-meter is pretty much just like raw strength. So like you're versus the 100 or even like the 200 is like that's more power, because you're gonna have to keep reproducing that strength over amount of time.
Yeah, and it's interesting too if you look at like arguably the best sprinter in history, Usain Bolt. In all his races, he always starts in the back. Like he's always like the slowest one out of the gate, um, because it takes him like he's a strong guy, but he's not the strongest. So typically, the guys who are stronger are going to have to be better out of the gate because that first 10 yards is acceleration, which is strength based.
Mhm.
So typically, those guys beat him out of the gate. But Usain Bolt is a freak, and he has a higher um, power threshold than most of those guys do. So
Mhm.
it takes him a little bit longer to reach his max velocity. But once he gets to it, which is typically like if you watch like his like 100-meter dash, like typically around like that, probably 20 yard, 20, probably about 20 yards for him, like mark. That's when he's
30 meters,
at that
20
max.
meters, 20
What's
meters.
that?
It's in meters.
Meters, yeah, 20,
Yeah,
30
yeah,
meters.
yeah.
I'd say 20 meters, yeah. Um, he's at that max velocity, and that's when he really like that's when the jets come on. He just smokes everybody because it takes a little bit to build up to that max velocity.
Yeah, and especially when he ran the world record, is that I'm speculating now just because of the information that you gave me, is that he probably worked on strength, uh, building his strength, because when you see that his start from there versus his start in the 2008, yeah, 2008 Beijing, it's
Yeah,
like he normally was the last person off the blocks.
yeah,
It's
almost
like, but
always.
that one, he was the first one out, and the time that he ran, it entered the realm of video games. Like a
Ridiculous.
9.58 is absurd. Like I don't think that's going to be touched for decades.
Yeah, it'll be a while. It'll get broken eventually because the genetic ceiling keeps getting pushed up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
Guys,
keep,
guys just keep breaking records. It's crazy. I mean, it's like the game of football. Guys keep getting bigger. Guys keep getting stronger. Guys keep getting faster. Like each year's a better class of recruits and players, and like it just keeps getting better, better. Like I think eventually it's gonna plateau, but like it seems like we're in the phase now where just like it's in a continual like growth.
mm. Well, I think it's going to continue growing and then plateau the once the techniques and weightlifting regimens that are used at the college level make it to the high school level, because
Yeah,
I think a lot of I think some of the rebellion that you get from the college kids is because they're coming from high schools where they have that old school coach that's just like lift, 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 do not rest, lift, lift. And now it was just lifting for the sake of lifting. And now where what from what you've told me is that it's lifting with intention,
yeah,
is lifting following the science, is that if you lift for, I don't know, 8 reps at 70% for 3 weeks straight, you might be more prone to an injury just because your muscles haven't had chance to rest.
yeah.
And that kind of segues into the next question I wanted to ask you, is like, what are some of the common mistakes people make when they're trying to build strength?
Hmm. I think a common misconception is to get stronger, you have to constantly lift maximally, meaning like you have to do a 1 RM like every time you lift, which is completely false. Really, the sweet spot of getting stronger is how many reps, how much volume can you get in the 80 to 90% uh percent range of your one repetition max. Like that's the sweet spot. Like that's the spot where like you're going to get guys the strongest. Like that's where like the Soviets and the guys who are like the elite Olympic weightlifters and strength-based athletes, like they
Mhm.
live in that realm of 80 to 90% of their 1RM. Like every now and then they'll go up and they'll hit something like 90 plus, hit a 92, 95, like for like a heavy single or double. Like they're lifting and doing as much volume as they can in that 80 to 90% range, because at 80%, you have pretty much activated all of the muscle tissue. The two ways to activate muscle tissue is heavy weight, which is at least 80%. Like that's the sweet spot, at
Mhm.
like the minimum sweet spot, like 90, 89% is kind of that whole sweet spot range. But yeah, lifting heavy, like 80+%, to activate muscle tissue, and then also lifting at velocity, like lifting for speed. So your Olympic lifts, like those are the two best ways to activate muscle tissue. Um, so yeah, I think a common misconception is people think to get stronger, you have to constantly do like test your strength. Like, okay, I'm gonna try to hit a new 1RM on bench today. Like I'm gonna do that next week too, and the week after, and week after. Like, no, like work on your volume, your strength at volume, and get as much volume as you can, that 89% range, and you're gonna get stronger, like guaranteed. Like it's gonna happen.
Mm. Okay. So let me explain to you what I was doing when I actually went to the gym. I'm gonna start going back, but when I was actually in college trying to just I guess I was trying to build muscle mass, but also not just like build strength. That's what I don't know what I was trying to do. I was just trying to get sexy. But what I did is that I was doing 3 reps between 8 and 10. Sorry, 3 sets, 8 and 10 reps. And honestly, I don't know what percentage I was doing. I would judge it based off of if the 10th rep was like, if I was failing at the 10th rep, then I knew that it was a good weight for me to stay at. So I would stay like, so let's say I was doing, I don't know, dumbbell bench press, and I was doing like 85 um,
Yeah.
with dumbbells. I would do 85, 3 sets for about 2 weeks. And then after that 2 weeks, then the last rep, I would go up 5 pounds. And I would do that for 2 weeks. And then the 2 weeks after that, then I would do two sets at that at 5+ pounds. And then from there, I was slowly increasing. Was that well, it wasn't science driven because I didn't read anything. But was that like a good way of trying to build like my strength while I was doing that, or was I completely fucking up my body?
I mean, that's a typical program, like the 3 sets, 8 to 10, but that's fine. We've all been in that phase at some point.
Thank you.
Um, I mean, taking it to, I mean, that typically like the 3 sets, 8 to 10 reps, like anytime you're like 6+ reps, like typically you're kind of getting that hypertrophy range. So really like 6 to 12 reps, like is considered muscular hypertrophy, meaning like you're tearing up the muscle tissue and it's going to recover. It's going to grow back stronger and bigger than it was before. And that's hypertrophy. That's how you get bigger. That's how you add more muscle. Um, you don't actually add new muscle fibers, which some people think. Like you actually just tear up the muscle fiber and it comes back bigger than it was before, and that's how you get bigger. So yeah, you were kind of in a muscle building phase, but you're also doing progressive overload because you're increasing the weight each time you're doing it, taking it close, either to failure or close to failure, which is also a good way to build a little bit of strength. Like not a, because you probably weren't at that high percentage, but anytime you do typically anything in that range where you're kind of 6 reps, 6 to 8 to 10, you may get a little residual strength adaptation from it too. It's gonna be more hypertrophy, more muscular damage. But you'll always get a little bit of kind of residual strength stuff too, especially since you're increasing the weight each time. Because anytime you're challenging the muscle and increasing the weight, which is called progressive overload, like you're going to challenge it a little bit in terms of its strength and trying to increase your overall strength levels.
Hmm. So you said that I was just increasing the size of the muscle fibers, but not increasing the muscle fibers themselves. Is there a way to increase muscle fibers? Do I have to like steal it from a kid like the Illuminati, do a blood sacrifice? Like how do I get more muscle
Yeah.
fibers?
So yeah, it's all genetic. So you're genetically endowed with the number of muscle fibers you have.
Fuck.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, that's you. Now, if you take steroids, I don't really know a ton of research, obviously, about steroids. There may be some cases where it can actually like duplicate or increase the number of fibers you have. But I think steroids more is actually increasing the muscle fibers you already have, like increasing the size of those.
Mm,
Um, but I know in I think it's bulls because I think it's called the myostatin gene. It inhibits because us humans have it. It inhibits like our how big we can get, but like a bull and like certain other animals don't have that gene. So they can keep getting bigger, 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 bigger. Like they have no genetic ceiling. They could get as big as fuck, like big as fuck as they absolutely wanted to. But like we have that gene that's almost like a fail safe where it's like, all right,
it's
like
like you're
this
done
is
growing.
yeah, like this is good for us. Like this is good for your body type. Like you're done.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, for, in terms of muscular hypertrophy, it's increasing the size of the fiber, not actually making new muscle fibers.
okay. All
But
right.
I don't know a ton about it, to be honest. Like I know that's the typical human response, but there
Mhm.
may be some cases in elite athletes where they can actually form new fibers, or if you abuse certain like growth hormones or steroids, you may be able to add new fibers too. But typically, it's like you grow the existing fibers you already have because that's what was genetically endowed to you.
Yeah, those genetic lottery winners.
Yeah, that sucks. Always gotta
uh,
blame genetics.
so this is a question I meant to ask earlier, but so could you explain the difference between a strength coach and a personal trainer?
Yeah. So a strength and conditioning coach is in a team setting. So we don't work one on one with athletes. Like you may at like some of these athletic clinics or these private clubs, like guys like Exos is a big private kind of strength and conditioning company.
Mhm.
Um, and they work with athletes, like some elite level athletes. Like it's still kind of strength conditioning, but it's more personal training because it's not really a ton of group setting stuff. It's more one on one. So typically, personal training is your one on one sessions. Strength conditioning is your big team settings where you're trying to get better and achieve a goal as a team versus personal training. You're just like usually typically for personal training, they're just trying to better the life of the person they're working with, like get them in better shape, just increase their quality of life. Versus strength conditioning, it's there's a set program, there's a set periodization plan that uh, for an adaptation that we're trying to achieve. Like whether like in off season, whether it be like, hey, we're gonna add muscle, and preseason, like, hey, okay, we're gonna work on our strength development, our empowerment development. Then in season, kind of work on both of those factors as well. Like it's strength conditioning is more like I look at it as like that's team setting. Like you're trying to get this whole entire team better versus personal training. You're just working one on one with one person to probably just increase their overall health and fitness and quality of life.
Hmm. So with that, with having the multiple athletes, so like you said, is that you'll have a you'll have a program where they will do wave sets. So for you, do you have a chart of what each player was at so that they don't try to, kind of cheat it while they're doing the program?
Do you mean like you're asking me if they have set numbers?
Yeah, so like if like athlete A might not be as strong as athlete B, so when you do the wave sets, it's like okay, so it's like your wave set starts off at 185 versus the other person where they're starting off at 210.
Yeah, yeah. Like whether you're like I use an app called Team Builder. Like shout out to those guys. Those guys are awesome. Um, and it's all an online strength conditioning based software. Like you track everything. Like my athletes all use their phones. Like we're in the process of trying to get an iPad that we can have at each one of our lifting stations. So then they can just come in, they click their name. They don't have to worry about having their phones. But right now, like until we can raise the money for it, we're just using it on our phones. Like I have all of them in a database, like through that app on my personal computer, where I go in, I update on a daily basis all their maxes, like athlete A, B, C, D, E, F. Like I have 200 athletes in my database. Like all of them have their set numbers, like the numbers they're supposed to hit, their set lifts, and all they have to do is come in for the workout. Like we talk about the lift, like everybody's doing the same thing. Um, but I'm going to have athletes on eventually on different programs based on their goals. Cause like I have set goals for each one of my athletes. in terms of their strength development. And then once they hit those, they hit that criteria, then they move on to other stuff. So I'm at soon at here, like at where I'm at, like we're gonna have multiple different programs going on at once. But since I just started here, everybody's kind of doing the same thing. We're getting a feel for how these guys and girls are in the weight room, and then from there we're gonna keep individualizing as much as we can. But yeah, every single one of my athletes has like their numbers that they're supposed to hit that's based off like their strength level. And all my guys and girls know too, like they're gonna group themselves like at a lifting station with somebody who's comparative in strength and height. That way they don't have to readjust the rack and
Yeah.
the height of the barbell each time. Like typically you want to pair up with somebody who's relatively the same strength as you and the height too. But then there's also cases where like if I got a freshman or not probably not a freshman because typically they're kind of by themselves, like working a little more technique stuff. Say I got a sophomore who's pretty solid technique, but he or she just isn't pushing themselves. They're just kind of going through the motion. Like that may be a case where I'll slap them with an upperclassman. So then like with an upperclassman I trust, who's one of my best lifters. So then they're going to get pushed by that person because like I'll tell that upperclass dude like, hey, I'm putting so and so with you because I need them to push harder. I want you to push them. And it's not, and they know that doesn't mean like, okay, like his max is 60 pounds below me, but like that doesn't matter. He's going to do the same numbers as me. Like, no, like they're going to push them to do more than what they thought they could. Like it's going to be within reason though.
Okay. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that making sure that you push yourself without getting hurt. And
Yeah.
um as because you deal with athletes and everything like that, and it's like, so for some of the athletes that might be listening, it's like, what is the best way? I'm trying to figure out how to word it. Like, what is the best way to distinguish between something between it just being pain and then it being hurtful? Because sometimes people will just stop. It's like, oh, it's a little bit painful. It's like, well, yeah, you're lifting weights, you're literally tearing muscle. Versus it's just like, oh, hey, coach, I just tore my muscle. I just tore my bicep off of my shoulder. Do you want me to keep lifting? Do you want me to finish my set?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Like there's a difference between being uncomfortable, like what I call it, and actually being in pain. And like you typically get to know your athletes and like who's gonna be like I have guys and girls that I work with here that like they could like break their arm in the middle of a set and they'll be like, all right, like, hey, just tape it up. I'm fine. Like, let me finish this shit. Like I have like some savages like that. But then I also have some guys and girls that will be like, they'll do like one rep on a back squat and like something just doesn't feel right. Like they're just sore from practice day before. I'm like, hey, I can't do this. Like, no, like you're fine. Like, cause typically like I have a fail safe. Well, like somebody will come to me and be like, hey, like I can't squat today. Like I have this really bad shooting pain in my leg. Like, okay, did you talk to the athletic trainers? Well, no, like it's not that bad. Like, okay, like try it. Let's see how it goes. If it's completely unbearable, we can modify it. But like if you didn't have to go see the athletic trainers for it, you're probably just a little bit beat up, a little sore. Like you're fine. Like try it. Let's see how it goes.
Mm,
And it's more of a process of them kind of learning and understanding their bodies, especially like young kids who come in who've never lived before. Like they'll learn to know like what's the difference between being a little sore, a little uncomfortable, and actually being in pain and being hurt.
mm,
Because like I tell my football guys all the time, like you guys play a brutal sport. Like once you start playing this game of football, you will never get to 100% again. Like you'll be lucky if you get to like 90, 95% again on a good day. Like you're probably gonna be fluctuating anywhere between like feeling 80 and 85% of you like your true 100% like self,
damn.
because that's the nature of the game. Like it's a brutal sport. You're going to be beat up. You're constantly colliding with guys, constantly like beating people, like hitting people. Like it's a brutal sport. So
And the force that they hit each other with is like,
yeah,
I think with the linemen, they said it's like it's analogous to a car crash.
yeah, some of it, yeah, yeah. But it's just more of them kind of growing up and knowing like what's uncomfortable and what's actually painful. Like you know when you're hurt, you know when you're just a little bit beat up.
Mhm.
It's more of them just kind of like growing up and understanding like okay, this is just me being sore. Like okay, like no, I actually tore my hamstring here. Like this is an actual injury.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, coach, my leg is hanging off.
yeah,
Uh when you thought, and you said about the difference between like, oh, you might be a little bit sore versus like you're being hurt. Within like, I guess it's probably more so just like bro culture, is that if you're not sore after a workout, then it it's kind of like an indication. It's like you didn't work hard enough. Is there some validity to that, or is it just like, oh, you weren't in shape and now your muscles are built with lactic acid?
Yeah, that's a myth. You don't have to be sore after a workout for it to have to been a good workout and you get um, the desired adaptation like we were going for that day. Like you don't have to be all like huffing and puffing or sweating and feel like shit. Like the days of like running guys in the ground 24/7 are long gone. Like the mentality, like I said earlier, of the no pain, no gain. Like you still have to have that a little bit to a degree. Like I like my athletes know, like, okay, there's gonna be times where you're gonna be a little bit tired, you're gonna be a little uncomfortable. You have to learn to push, you have to like embrace the suck. One of my old bosses used to say that. Like embrace the suck, like learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like you have to get to that degree.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's yeah,
just good. It's
it's yeah, you don't have to be completely beat up and run into the ground for like the workout to have been effective. Because typically like a lot of your guys and girls who are like getting the most out of your program and who have gotten stronger, gotten better, like it's going to take a lot for them to continue to adapt because like everybody's going to reach that genetic ceiling where okay, like this is as strong as this person's going to get, this is as powerful as this person's going to get, this is as fast as they're going to get, like they're at their ceiling.
mhm.
um so like yeah, you can't constantly just run your athletes into the ground like and just try to make them miserable and like um yeah, because I've worked with some coaches who were like, why aren't they sweating? Like they just got done with like it's not even sweating. Like what? Like they didn't work hard enough. Like that's not an indication at all because like that guy could also have a very good auto thermoregulatory system, meaning like his body's very good at cooling off. So that's why he doesn't really sweat that much. Like he's very efficient at getting rid of the heat that he's building up from working out. Like there's so many different factors that go
That's
into it. Yeah,
that's me.
yeah,
I never would sweat,
yeah. I
and
don't sweat like at all either.
no matter how hard I'd work, I would just like not sweat. Like I would probably have to push myself to the point of me almost passing out for me to start sweating. Versus there are some people I've played sports with where they jog for a minute and their whole body is drenched, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
it's like, oh, okay. So, and that's interesting that you say it's like for you to get a good workout, you don't necessarily have to sweat, because a lot of times when you listen to, I don't know, these fitness gurus and everything like that, like they tell you it's like if you didn't break a sweat, then you didn't work. Like sweating is the way of letting your is the way of you knowing that your body is being exerted.
yeah.
So that isn't necessarily the case for like a broad case
No.
of people.
Definitely not, yeah. It's not a good factor to be looking at to see if the workout was effective.
So would it be more so like heart rate and like stuff like that? Whereas,
Yeah, that's yeah, like doing heart rate variability and measuring that stuff during a lift or like a conditioning session, and just measuring the progress through time. Like you run a 4-week program, like okay, you said the guys in like okay, coach, like you said you didn't think the guys were working hard enough, they weren't sweating enough. Like, okay, this is our team strength percent before this block. This is where it's at now. It went up 30%. Like we got better. Like the guys or girls were pushing. Like they weren't you didn't think they're working hard because they weren't sweating, but we got 30% better in our strength as a team. Like this was an effective block. Like
mm,
that's why being like a data driven and research driven program is so important, especially data driven, because it shows progress. Like you can't just go to a coach like and he asks you like, "Hey, did the program work?" Yeah, yeah, we got better. Like, okay, like
show
show
your
me,
work. Show
like
yeah, show your work.
show me your numbers, show me your data. Like, how did you get better? Why did you say better? Like, you have to have some kind of proof, and
Mhm.
like that's why like I'll always be a like numbers won't completely always drive my program, but like it's going to be a huge base of my program because it shows the progress that we're making.
Yeah, it's a way of quantifying something, and then
Yeah.
the qualitative part is winning games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause like
Okay.
I've worked with people too who are like super smart, like sciencey and all that. And like I fall in that spectrum a little bit too. But like and I've seen coaches too at other schools, and like they're like that, and they don't win games because it's like they lose track of like they're trying to get too fancy, trying to do too much, trying to implement this, trying to do this, trying to do this. Like just stick to the basics and do one thing at a time. And like if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like for me, I have a couple programs I'll always run in certain times of the year because they always work. And like if they always work, I'm never gonna not do them because they work. Why wouldn't I do them? Like I'm
Yeah.
never gonna be the strength coach where I'm trying to reinvent the wheel or have like my claim to fame. Like, oh yeah, I invented that program, or like I came up with that method, that exercise. Like, no, I don't care about that. Like, I just want to see what other guys are doing, like see what the research is showing, like see what's the most effective, and like that's what I'm gonna do.
And touching on the fact of being data driven, for people that want to get back into the gym, they want to maybe build muscle, build strength, build power, well, build power. It's like, so would you recommend the first time back at the gym to kind of max out to figure out where they are, and then from there calculate like like you said, the 80%, 90%, or like what is the best way to kind of get a calibration of where you are so that you know where to move forward if you're getting back into the gym?
Yeah. Especially if someone who's untrained, I would definitely not recommend going in and maxing out day one. Typically, that's how a lot of people will get like either hurt or they'll get so sore from doing it. They'll be like, I don't want to feel this way again. And that's when they'll drop out and they won't ever like work out again.
Mm,
Typically, I would tell that person like go to the gym, like be consistent for like a month, so like 4 weeks. Just do a basic program where you're doing like either sets of 5, sets of 10, full body every day you come in. Do a push exercise or do a squat exercise, a hip hinge exercise, a push, a pull, some abs, a little bit of cardio. Boom, that's all you need. Like do 3 sets of 10, all that for however many days you want to go in the gym. Like 3 to 5, like whatever it is. Like I'd say 3 to 4 is kind of the sweet spot. Do that for 4 weeks, build up kind of a decent base of strength, and then from there you can go in. You can get a little bit heavier, maybe do a little bit heavier, like set of 3 or 5, and then kind of gauge and see where your strength's at, and then you can kind of estimate a max based off that. But typically, a person who's untrained or someone who hasn't been in the gym for a while, like definitely wouldn't recommend going in and doing like a heavy, like max out or single. Like typically, that is not going to end well.
well, yeah, I'm not saying that go in and try to lift 250 if you've been 2.5 years out of the gyms. Like, yeah, like
Yeah,
you're gonna hurt yourself.
you got to ease
I
into
get
it.
what you're saying.
Because
Um,
especially if you haven't done it in a while, your body's going to get very sore and very agitated very easily because it's going to be a new stress your body hasn't seen in a while. So, like that's where your body's going to build up lactic acid. You're going to get sore. Your joints going to hurt a little bit because your body's not used to that stress and it's adapting. So then next time that stress comes around, it's going to be built up a little bit better than it was, so it can withstand that stress a little bit better. But if you go in like day one and just go guns blazing, like you get all beat up, all sore. Like it's just too much stress in your body. And for the person themselves, they're like, well, this sucks. Like if I'm gonna feel like this every time I go to the gym, I'm not gonna go back. And typically like that's kind of what happens with a lot of people with New Year's resolutions is they go in, they go balls to the wall day one, and then they fall off after the first week because they're like, well, I'm so sore I can't move. Like if this is how I'm gonna feel, I'm not gonna do this again.
yeah, yeah, I won't lie. I've been someone like that. Not New Year's, not for New Year's, but when I've gotten back into the gym, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna push myself. And there have been times where I've passed out in the locker room, I've thrown up. It's been, yeah. And after that, like you said, after that, I was just like, you know what? I think I've earned myself like a week off, like just from that one
Yeah.
experience. And yeah, it's about going slow, understand, like first understanding your body, how you're going to react to it. But I think a lot of times, and I think maybe especially for men, is that when we get back into the gym, it's like it's other people are watching, so that's where that ego comes in, and you want to.
Yeah, it's 100%.
And that's why when you said about like, oh, like that's bro science, like 8 to 10 3 reps and everything like that, it's like, yeah, because you don't want to do a set of like 3 because someone looking at you was like, oh, he only did it 3 times, like he's
Yeah,
weak.
exactly. Yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
like, oh, he lifted, he curled 45 pounds 10 times. It's like, oh, he's strong, right? But it's, I guess what you're, from what you're saying, is kind of shifting that paradigm, is that between strength and power.
Yeah.
Um, So what would be the best, like, what are the best ways for athletes to um, safeguard themselves from injuries?
Sleep.
Sleep?
Yeah, none of these kids sleep enough. Sleep is the number one best and highest recommended supplement you can take, or recovery modality, whatever you want to call it. Like, people ask me all the time, like, "Oh, coach, like what kind of supplements do you recommend for like recovery? Like, what should I be doing to like help my recovery?" Like, okay, like, so the sweet spot, like it's a point of diminishing returns. So like the sweet spot for optimum sleep is 8 hours. Below that, you're not sleeping enough. Too much of that, like it drops off and it becomes a little
Has a negative.
non-beneficial. Yeah, has negative effect on performance. So like any guy, girl, or whoever like asks me like, oh, like, what do you recommend like to help my recovery? Like, I'll ask them like, are you sleeping 8 hours a night? Well, no, like typically like five. Like, get 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep. Like, the best single form of recovery is sleep, and it's free. Like, you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to make a meal plan. You don't have to prep it. Like, you just sleep. Everybody likes to sleep too. Um, but like sleep's definitely the first one I recommend. Then like obviously a solid nutrition plan, because like none of the kids I work with, like any university I've been at, like kids, they don't eat enough, they don't eat right. Like it's just a nightmare in terms of their nutrition. Like, I think if kids, especially athletes, can get their nutrition, their sleep in check, like their performance is going to be worlds difference in a good way.
Mm, What about stretching? Does that work?
Stretching is good. Yeah, like foam rolling. I mean,
Oh, I hate foam.
people, yeah, people are, there's a big crowd of like anti foam rollers, like all for foam rollers. Like, I'm I'm a big believer. Like, if even if there's no research showing that it's beneficial, it does anything. If the kid doesn't and he or she feels better, like
That's
that's
the
already a
point. Yeah.
battle. That's a battle won right there. Like, if the kid feels better doing it and they have a better mindset, like the mind controls the body. So like if your mind's already in a better spot, your body's gonna feel good and like you're gonna play better.
Mm,
So like I'm all for it. But yeah, stretching, foam rolling, like any kind of like ice tubbing, like hot tubs, like massages, saunas, like any of that stuff is great for recovery too.
okay. Okay.
And then in terms of like supplements,
Steroids?
I mean, yeah, I wish. It'd be nice if they didn't have such negative impact or negative side effects.
Yeah,
Uh,
most people go for the spectacle, so they don't really care
yeah,
about the athlete.
but multivitamin, vitamin D, and fish oil are the three highest recommended ones that I recommend to all my athletes and anybody who asks. Like, those are the three best things you can take, especially the vitamin D and the fish oil. Vitamin D is a super hormone. It's involved in hundreds of different pathways in the body, including like anabolic pathways, which helps you recover and build muscle.
Mm,
And especially like this time of year too, when it's getting dark at 5 o'clock, like and people aren't sitting out in the sun anymore because it's cold. Like, it's important to supplement your vitamin D because we're not getting it through the sun like we do in the summer months.
yeah. And I'll say this PSA to all my Black brothers and sisters out there, supplement vitamin D, because the thing, and I'm gonna be straight up, is that this is a foreign environment for our skin. Our skin was made for the sun. So even though it's just like some some people of the lighter hue might be a little bit better with the winter than us. We need to supplement, and then also once the sun is out, go outside.
Yeah.
Like,
And
get
typically,
30 minutes of just sunlight. Just stand
yeah.
there like a big ass plant and just soak up some sun for 30
And
minutes.
typically, like it is harder for African Americans to absorb vitamin D because you guys have darker skin. Like, it's harder for that vitamin D to get in.
No, 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 no. It's not because of the darker skin. It's because of the environment in which we're in.
Hmm.
Because think about it, African Americans are like genetically where this skin came from was not North America.
I mean, that makes sense.
So it wasn't built for the type of sunlight that North America gets.
Yeah.
And
That's fair. Like,
I've gotten into like a debate with a professor at my old school because they said something similar to that. It's like, oh, African Americans are vitamin D deficient. It's like they have a problem. It's like it's on face value, yes. But if you take that same African American and put them in Ghana or Nigeria, that vitamin D deficiency goes away.
Yeah. We're all
So,
vitamin D deficient anyways. Nobody gets enough vitamin D.
oh yeah, oh, but that's just because of how this system is set up with work and everything like that.
Yeah.
We're stuck inside a cubicle, inside a building or something like that. It's like, so yeah, but that was my little PSA to my Black brothers and sisters. But I wanted to ask you, is like, because of the fact that you work with athletes so much, there's before there was controversy about it. I think California did something about it, but what are your thoughts about athletes being collegiate athletes being paid?
Oh, that's yeah. I know a lot of people are for it. And like they think it's a great thing because these kids commit so much of their time and their lives to like these schools and stuff. I don't agree with it. I don't like it just because do I think these kids like deserve more than what they're getting? Yeah, like I'm not saying I don't think these kids deserve more, especially like a lot of these kids um, come from low income areas, like they're coming to college because they're trying to better the lives of like not just themselves but their families. Um, I just don't like it from the standpoint if we start paying college athletes and amateur athletes, then there becomes no separation between an amateur athlete and a professional athlete. Like guys and girls aren't going to try to go to that next level, that professional level, as early anymore or as often because like, well, I'm getting paid to as an amateur in college. Like, why do I need to go to the NFL or whatever? Like, I'm getting paid here. Like, screw it. Like I just think there needs to be a separation between okay, amateur, you don't get paid, professional, like you make to that next level. That's when you start getting paid for your name, your likeness, and all that stuff. I don't think college athletes should get paid. I think eventually in time it's going to ruin the sport because I think it's going to become all about that. And I think you're going to have kids transferring and dropping out because um, of sponsorships and shit like that. And people don't realize too, like these kids are getting paid, like especially these big schools. These kids are getting a $60,000 education, and they're also getting like several $1,000s a month in housing and a stipend. Like when I was an intern in Alabama, those kids were getting thousands of bucks a month in just free money, just stipend, just to live, like on top of them getting their education paid for, their housing paid for, and their meals. So they were pocketing a couple $1,000s a month just in spending money. So like those guys were getting paid,
Mhm.
and that's a part of their scholarship. It's not like they're getting paid by donors or something like or violating anything. Like they're getting paid through their scholarship because part of their scholarship they get a stipend. It's like it's been like that. Like, and I think that's a good balance right now. Like, I don't think it needs to be where like we have like guys signing these um NIL or whatever it's called, name, image, likeness, or whatever contracts for like almost $1 million, and they haven't even played a snap of college athletics yet, college football, whatever it may be. Like I think it's ridiculous. Like I just don't see it ending well. I don't really see a point to it. Like, do I think these kids probably need more help with stuff? Like probably yes, but like I want there to be a separation between being a college amateur athlete and a professional athlete. And I think that separation is when you start handing these kids money.
So I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna push back a little bit. Is I understand where you're coming from, and I don't necessarily agree with that. It will blur the line because it's with these schools, if they decide that they're going to pay college athletes like a certain amount of money, is that it's not going to be anywhere near like what um, a star running back on a football team, even if they decide they're going to start paying like college athletes, he's not going to make nearly as much as if he went to the NFL. So it's not,
Yeah.
so I don't think that it's going to incentivize people to not go. But I think that it will give people, especially athletes, like a certain level of comfortability, because like that's good that Alabama has that where like their players are getting stipends, but you can talk to some of the NFL players. I think Richard Sherman talked about it, is that there were times that he just went to bed hungry because he didn't have any money for food. And the rationale that people give is that, oh, well, you're like, you can go to the dining halls. Well, if you have practice that runs late and the dining halls close at 8, now I don't have access to food anymore.
Yeah.
And also when people say that they get an education, is that I push back a little bit hard with that I push back hard with that because with I'll just talk about the two big sports, football and basketball, is that with a lot of these kids, they're getting degrees in something that doesn't necessarily transfer into real world jobs. And it's just a degree in which they can get an easy AN, and then so that they're eligible to play.
Yeah.
And even
100%.
if they are failing during the year, they'll take some bullshit classes during the summer, get their GPA up high enough so that they're eligible, and then keep like pushing them through. I had one friend that she was a English tutor for the school that I went to, and she was saying that because she had to review some of their essays and everything like that for the English classes, and some of them were reading on a fourth or below a fourth grade level and writing on that. And it was like, that is a failure of multiple systems.
Yep.
But I think it becomes more egregious when you have someone that is on that level of reading, and then on top of that, you're making millions of dollars from the stuff that they do. And some of these people are going to bed hungry. And that's, I think, where the argument is that if you're making all the money off of the sport that we play, then, and we don't see any of it, you tell us that we're getting an education, and this is why hopefully I'll get a chance to actually do it. I actually want to do a study following up with, like, they say what, like 1% of college athletes go pro.
It's less than that.
Well, less than that. So I want to follow up with the 99%, because I want to see, like, where are you after sports?
Yeah.
Because then that argument of we're giving them an education for their future kind of falls apart, because part of how schools are ranked is off of job placements after graduation. So if you're saying that you're giving these kids this great opportunity to play sports and be a student, but yet those that don't go professional, they might end up be like working at McDonald's or something like that. And it's like, but like, so
Yeah.
how
Or
much?
the ones that leave early, like they won't even finish their degree, and then like they leave, go to the NFL or whatever, and it doesn't work out, and then they're fucked because they didn't finish their degree. Like you
Yeah,
see,
like
that's pretty common too. Yeah.
I honestly believe that they should implement this in the NFL and NBA, is like, you have to have your bachelor's.
That would be cool.
Like
You have to finish. Yeah. No more coming out early. You have to. I mean, I guess you could make them still finish it, but like chances are those guys are going to go pro and they're not going to finish. But if you could make it where, like, I mean, it'd be tricky to do that, but if you can make it where like everybody has to, like, you have to finish your degree before you can declare for the next level or the draft or whatever. Like, I mean, I think that'd be pretty cool if you could do that.
because if you're saying that I'm here to play sports, I'm here to get an education, because they say you're a student first, you're an athlete second. But coaches will
Which is
say,
not true at all.
yeah, but coaches will say it's like, you're a student first, you're an athlete second.
Yeah.
It's like, so we know what's going on. It's just a blatant disregard because it's entertainment, but it is to a certain extent kind of dehumanizing, like, the people that are in that sport, because any other profession, anything else, where if you told them that majority, or there's a good amount of people within that profession that stopped college to go into that profession, they will look at you like, okay, hang on, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But because it's sports, we deem that it's okay.
It's acceptable. Yep.
Yeah.
Too many exceptions are made for sports in our society.
Yeah. So, and that's why I think that with paying, like, with paying student athletes is that I think it's very important because going to what you said about the foam rollers, like if your mind is okay, then your body will start reacting. It's just like, so if you're getting paid for the sport that you're playing, and not on the millions of dollars level, but maybe, I don't know, maybe like a couple of grand or whatever during the season. And I'm not even saying the entire year. I'm saying the season that you play, that's when you get paid.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable. So the season that you play, that's when you get paid. So it also gives you an incentive to work harder and win games to prolong your season, to actually get a championship, because now I might be getting paid more, well, getting paid for a longer period of time. But if you're getting paid maybe 3, 4, whatever, depending on the budget, the revenue of the school, is like, if I'm coming from a low income family, now I have income to send back to my family that might be struggling, because how am I supposed to be worried about a lift if my mother's lights might get cut off?
Yeah.
It's like,
That's,
I'm not
yeah,
going to be
I
all the
agree with
way
that.
there. So that's kind of why I think that with student athletes, they should get paid. Now, I don't think every sport should get paid, because not every sport contributes to the revenue that's coming in.
No, it's just your priority sports with football, basketball,
Maybe some lacrosse, depending on lacrosse, or no, hockey.
hockey, especially especially in the part of the country I live now in the Midwest. It's yeah, hockey's huge out here.
Yeah.
Hockey brings in a ton of money at the universities out here.
So I think it's stuff like that. It's like, unfortunately, the people in the golf team, I'm sorry, motherfuckers. It's like you.
It's yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry.
There's been places I've been where like the smaller sports get upset because they don't get as much like say athletic gear or like as many scholarships stuff. But it you just look at them like dude, come on, like your sport doesn't bring in any money. We can't give you more because your sport doesn't bring in any money.
Yeah. And I guess their rationale is like, we're sports too. It's just like, yeah, by
Yes,
default.
but especially in college athletics, money is king. Money talks.
Oh yeah, money talks and bullshit walks. Um, One of the things that you brought up earlier in the conversation is that you're using like an app and certain technologies. What I want to ask you is like, what are some of the new age machines or technologies that you've been exposed to or you implement within your own program that help improve strength, strength and power, and hopefully helps also prevent like injuries?
Yeah, so we use the app here, Team Builder, to track progress. It's where all their workouts are digitally logged too. So like we don't do pen and paper, which is nice. We don't have to worry about printing sheets or having sheets and pens laying all across the weight room. Um, that's really all the technology we have right now. I'm in the process of fundraising. I want to get um, at least 2 force plates, which is a device you stand on and it measures, like you just jump on it and it measures how much force you put in the ground and take off, how high you jump, how much force you land with, and like what your hang time is and all that good stuff. So like that'll help us better train our athletes too, because I'll use that as a metric of each day. Like my guys and girls will jump, and depending on where they're at in terms of their max vertical jump will dictate what they do for the day, because then that's going to better allow us to auto regulate like what we do with our athletes. So um if a kid comes in like he or she's like I would do a subjective method being like, all right, 1 to 10, like how do you feel? Like 10, you're gonna die. 1, you feel like you go lift a car. Like,
Mhm.
oh, like I feel like an 8. Okay, like what's going on? You just feel tired, like you didn't sleep? Like, nah, yeah, I just feel a little beat up. Like, okay, all right, get on the force plate, like let's see what your jump is. That'd be the objective measure. And depending where they're at in terms of their max vertical jump will dictate like, okay, you said you felt tired, but you jumped at 98% of your max vertical jump. Like you felt tired, but your body's actually not tired. So like this is the lift we're gonna do today. Like you can push. Versus if a kid came in like they said they didn't feel tired or they did feel tired and they jumped and their jump was really bad, then like, all right, this kid needs a day. Like we need to do a lighter lift, or like maybe this is a day where we back off and like they just stretch in the weight room, or we go talk to the coach like, hey, so-and-so needs to cut their reps or back off in practice because their vertical jumps down 40%, like they're gas, like they need a day.
Mm.
So those are two other, or that's a device that I like to get to better kind of help train our athletes in terms of like being more efficient. Um, and then also these devices called velocity based trackers. So it'll be like a little unit you put on the barbell and it will sync. I mentioned earlier how I want to get iPads for each one of our racks. It'll sync to the iPad. And all my guys and girls who are at my strength standards,
Mhm.
which for my guys, they can squat 2 times their body weight, they can bench 1.5, they can squat or squat 2 times their body weight, bench 1.5, power clean 1.5. For my female athletes, they can squat 1.5 times their body weight, bench and power clean their body weight. Um, Once they hit those strength standards, then they can use these velocity based devices because they're strong for themselves, for their body, for their sport. Like, could we keep getting them stronger? Yes, but there's a point in diminishing returns where, yeah, you keep getting stronger, 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 but then your speed and power development is going to drop off because, yes, you can produce a large amount of force, but you can't do it quickly. And like, I've worked with athletes like that are super freakishly strong, but they can't move, they can't play on the field because they have no power development, they have no rate of force development because all they are is a strength based athlete. So
Yeah.
once they get to those strength standards for me, then they work on their rate of force development, their power development with those velocity based devices, and everything they do has to be at least zero point 0.9 meters per second or higher, like as close ideally to a meter per second as you can, because that's kind of the sweet spot. And they just
Mm.
keep add weight and keep trying to get to that metric until to get to the point where it starts dropping. Then they're going to stay at that weight till they can hit it. And then once they hit that metric, then they go up. But those are some other devices I'd like to get to better train like our athletes, and individualize stuff a little bit more and make it more needs based off like each individual athlete. Um, I would say that's probably it in terms of like technology I want now. Then also last thing is would be lasers, because I want to test their vertical jump or their vertical jump we would do on the force plate. So I want to test their 10-yard dash and pro agility. How I mentioned those are the three best factors for overall athleticism.
Can't you just use the little tappy thing? The
Vertec, yeah, we have one of those. It just takes too long, especially like I got 123 football players.
Mhm.
Testing them like all at once in the same day would just take way too long. That's why the force plate's so much easier because like the guy or girl just gets on, they step up, they load, they jump, boom, it automatically logs to my computer. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to write anything down. Like everything's
Gotcha.
taken care of for me, and I can spit people through much quicker. But yeah, the lasers too because they can better help us time any of the speed-based stuff that we want to track or agility stuff in terms of like pro agility, 10-yard dash, 40-yard dash. If someone want to do that, like I wouldn't do that. Um,
Yeah, we know you hate the 40 yard.
yeah, yeah, but that's some of the stuff that I'm kind of really pushing, try to get here to really push like kind of this program here to the next level.
With the force play, I remember that I think you were speaking to me about it on Xbox Live. Was the force plate the machine that you were using, or I think you said that you used once, like to kind of assess whether or not someone was prone to like an ACL tear? Like, was that it, or there was something that you explained to me is like where when you were measuring the amount of force, it was like you're putting more force on your right leg than your left, and like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you can do that with the force plate because it's two separate plates. Like one plate is for each foot, so you're
Okay.
standing on two individual plates. So um, if a kid is landing and there's more force being put into one leg versus the other when they're landing, like after a vertical jump, typically there's going to be a higher rate for some kind of knee injury, some kind of ligament injury in their knee,
Mm.
or just imbalance in general on that side of the body, especially in female athletes because they have a high instance of ACL tears, especially in like jumping sports with like soccer when they go to head the ball, and then women's volleyball and women's basketball. Um, if one of those girls is landing with a ton of force on one leg compared to the other, like chances are like that knee is going to give out at some point if it's absorbing all the force like on a regular basis.
Mm. And there is, well, I know that because it's ligaments, it's not muscle. Like, so there's nothing really you can do to strengthen the ligaments. But I guess would it be more so just like doing isolated like knee exercises to try to strengthen that, or would it be more so kind of getting the body used to act, equally um, stimulating both leg muscles and everything like that.
Yeah, both. Like you ligaments and tendons can get stronger, tendons more so.
Yeah.
But with like regular basic strength training, like they can get stronger, they can adapt. But also like that's why it's important to do, like I mentioned earlier, how like towards the end of my workouts with my accessory movements, we do a lot of like single leg jumping, single leg balance, single leg um, movements, single arm stuff, because your body has to get used and strong to, like every sport's played on two legs, but your body also gets put in susceptible positions where if that leg isn't stable or strong by itself without the other leg, then typically that's when you blow out a ligament.
Mm,
Um, so that's why it's important to do that unilateral training too, with like your single leg, single arm stuff too, because that'll help better prepare that athlete to be able to withstand that force if they're put in those vulnerable positions.
okay. I have two more questions and then I'll let you go. Um,
Sounds good.
so could you kind of just give, and it's probably a hard question to answer because it's gonna be broad, but could you give like some basic things for people if they wanna build muscle, build strength, or get lean?
Yeah. So, um,
I know that's a tall order.
no, it's pretty basic. Like with the if you want to build muscle, like do do a full body lift, full body movements, like 3 sets of 10, like probably I would say like 2 minutes or less for a rest. And do that a couple days a week. Like really, you want to be in the 10 to 12 probably range to in terms of adding muscle. You want it to be moderate weight. Like you don't want it to be so easy where you're just breezing through the 10 reps or the 12 reps, whatever it is. Um, and then also typically like if you shorten the rest too, like heavier weight is what elicits testosterone release, which helps build muscle. So when you shorten the rest and lift heavier weights, that's how you get testosterone release. Growth hormones typically released where there's shorter rest and then higher volume. So if you have a moderate to heavy weight and you're doing a decent amount of like moderate to high volume, you're going to get a good release of growth hormone and testosterone, which is going to help you build muscle. And that's typically done like that 3 sets, 10 to 10 to 12 reps, full body move, like full body lifts, 3 to 5 days a week, or I should say probably 3 to 4 days a week. Um, and rest probably like 2 minutes or less. And then strength, um, for the basic person, I'd probably do like a 3x5 or a 5x5. Um, and again, full body, like you want to do, I would do a
Which is
squat,
the 3x5 is
3 sets of 5 reps, five reps, 3 sets of 5 reps or 5 sets of 5 reps, and full bodies. So I would do a squatting movement, so a knee dominant movement, a hip hinge movement. So like something that's, excuse me, that's hamstring dominant, glute dominant, which is like an RDL or a glute ham raise, something like that. A push, so it could either be like a military press, a bench press, dumbbell work, dumbbell shoulder work, um, and then a pull, like whether it be a barbell bent over row, a pull up, a chin up, a dumbbell row, like, and then some kind of ab stuff like rotational static core at the end. Um, and then for overall like leaning out, you can do the same kind of rep scheme. Short rest periods, probably a minute or less, 3 sets, 10 to 12 reps, moderate weight. Like that's going to help you lean out too, because you're going to be eliciting that hormonal response, which is going to help burn fat. But really, for leaning out, it's all about your diet and kind of eating as healthy as you can. Then also um, interval training. Like people think steady state cardio is the best way to burn fat, like just go out and run or hop on a treadmill and jog for an hour. The best way to do to shed fat and to lean out is to do interval training, like whether it be on a bike, an elliptical, a treadmill, do some kind of interval where you're going hard for X amount of time, like 15, 20 seconds, and then you kind of coast, go easy for 15, 20 seconds, and you repeat that constantly for 30 to 40 minutes.
oof, yeah, track those were in and outs.
Yeah.
Oh, those sucked.
So that you'll get the best response 24 to 48 hours post workout in terms of burning calories with interval training.
Hmm, okay. Okay. Um, Damn, see, every single time you say something, I think of another question. So I'm not trying to prolong it.
It's all right.
Just
You can
yeah,
always text me too with other questions you have. You know that.
yeah, we might have to do a part two.
And again, too, because like I'm by far no expert. Like I said in the beginning, like my opinions are my own. Like everything I believe and do is based off like what I've seen, what I've read, like who I am as a coach. But like what I'm saying may be a little bit different than like what Tofi would say or what Brandon would say, or like some of the other like strength coaches who are also all of our friends may say.
all right, well, maybe I'll get the three of you on, and then you guys can just fight with each other, and
Yeah,
I
we
don't
could
have
do
to,
that.
I don't have to say anything. But so with a lot of the stuff that you explained, like you said, it was a full body workout, and I guess from when I was going to the gym and everything like that, I was doing like isolated, like I'm doing tries, bis and tries today, then I'm doing chest and back, and then like maybe shoulders might just be a day of its own, and then mix in abs within that. Is from a strength and conditioning coach standpoint, is that a good method from like of doing that, or is it because of the fact that you're doing like biceps and triceps that by the end of your workout you're burnt out, so the last two exercises might not even be like beneficial?
I mean, I think it's fine for like the normal population. Like strength conditioning, we don't do body splits because one, we only have a limited amount of time in the weight room, and two, like we're gonna get the most bang for our buck training full body, because every sport we play is played with the entire body. It's not just lower body, it's not just upper body. So like we need to train the body as a whole unit. Um, and you got to look about like the number of responses or the number of um, what's what I'm looking for, like exposures you get each week. So like if you did chest, if you do a body split, like you're hitting chest only once a week versus if you did a full body split where you're doing full body 3 days a week, like you're hitting chest 3 days a week as opposed to only hitting it 1 day a week, which is probably going to elicit a better response and hitting that adaptation, that goal that you're trying to achieve.
Well,
But I think splits are effective though. Like I said, we don't do it in strength conditioning because we don't have the time, and like it's better for us to train our athletes full body. I mean, some guys do upper lower splits, which is fine. Like I have nothing against that. Like for
mhm.
me and how I was kind of brought up and mentored in this field, like I believe in full body training every day we lift because we're gonna get the most out of it. Because if we're only lifting like in season right now, like we're only lifting 2 days a week, so like I have to do full body because if I did uppers lowers, then like I'm only hitting those body parts once a week versus if I have 2 days, I'm hitting them twice a week, and it's better. It's going to better prepare my guys and girls for competition for that week.
Yeah, and like you said, it's that you're using your full body, so it's
Yeah,
not like yeah, I can't even think of a sport where you don't implement your full body. Uh,
yeah,
so
yeah.
this is gonna be the last question. It's like, so for what is the best advice that you can give to aspiring athletes that are either maybe in high school, maybe just got into college, and they're trying to up their game and like bring it to the next level?
Yeah. Try to get hooked up on some kind of like or hooked up at some kind of good lifting like club or clinic, or get with a good coach that you know, or somebody that you can be recommended to, because there's a lot of kids that I've worked with like coming in as freshmen have no lifting experience, versus the guys and girls that I've worked with who have had lifting experience who are already a step ahead of the game because they're a little bit more developed than the other kids who don't have any lifting experience, and they're just on a different level in terms of the other kids just because they already have that step up because they've already been lifting. So I like my advice would be just start lifting as soon as you can. Like always have great technique. Don't sacrifice the technique for the weight. Make sure you have the technique perfect and down before you add more weight to the bar or the device, whatever you're using. Then you go from there. But definitely get a good qualified coach that you can find to help you teach and learn the lifts. Because I think the more lifts you can do with a barbell in your hand, on your back, I think you're going to be better in the long run because that's going to be the most beneficial for overall athletic development.
Okay, so I want to say thank you for coming. give you 60 seconds that if you have any closing statements, you want to plug anything anything that's going on.
Yeah.
Now's your
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. This has been awesome. I'm glad I was able to do this. It was a ton of fun. Feel honored that you asked me to do this, but I don't have any sponsors or anything. That I don't have any plugs or anything. I gotta shoot in, but again, I'm glad we were able to do this because I enjoy talking with you, and I'm hopefully inspires somebody or whether it be like a future strength coach or athlete to either pursue this field or just to pursue a better version of themselves.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. Thank you for coming. I know that it's probably late for you. Yeah, it's late for you now because
Yeah, I'm not definitely not a night owl.
you in the fucking boonies now. But
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for coming, and I've definitely learned a lot from this. So now when I go to the gym, I'm not going to look like an asshole. But everyone, that has been another episode of Tune Talks with the Pharaoh, and I'll see you guys next week.